Yo, how Assassination Tower came about. Alright, so lately I've been kinda playing a lot of Reach because I recently got everything I wanted from Destiny, and last night I was in an Assassination Tower game, and like usual, when I see the stupidity of its community unravel, I once again ask myself the same question. How the fuck did this abomination come about? And to be honest, I have no fucking idea, but I can always try to come up with an educated guess. All I know is that custom games slightly before Assassination Tower became a thing were already getting kinda bland and played out, even before AT itself showed up. Before Assassination Tower, there was sword tournaments, and before that, there was Castle Wars, and these three custom games all have something in common. Your primary weapon was a sword, and they got played out pretty fucking fast. Alright, Castle Wars. Castle Wars is basically a symmetrical map with horrible aesthetics. That was usually ran with a CTF game type. Red team and blue team of course spawned in their own bases as expected, and there was only one narrow path to get to the other base. The only weapons you spawned with were energy swords, and that's it. However, there were two magnums, one hidden in each base. Problem there is that when using these magnums you were considered a scrub, and your kills were considered illegitimate, and you ended up usually getting kicked from the game for using it because people didn't like it. Sound familiar? What I don't understand is that if they were that big of a fucking deal, why didn't you just go into Forge, spawn a Magnum, and go to the delete all option? That way you wouldn't have to deal with them ever again. It's a pretty simple fucking solution if you ask me, and considering the fact that this game blew the fuck up before AT was around, you'd expect there to at least be someone in its huge fan base to know how to do that, but since that never happened, it leads me to believe that the majority of this community's followers were a bunch of fucking idiots. Yeah, now you know where some of AT's stupidity is coming from. Not only were the community's stupidity similar, this game type, just like AT, was played the fuck out and got boring really fucking fast. The game usually lasted an exhausting amount of time, since there's only one path to the other base and everyone has swords. You have to go out there, survive the clusterfuck in the middle of swords clashing and shit, make it inside the enemy base where chances are more enemies are respawning due to dying in the clusterfuck gathered in the middle, grab their flag at the top of their base, jump off because you know it has less of a risk compared to running through the enemy base again, where you're temporarily frozen in your own landing animation with less health from fall damage, once again survive the clusterfuck in the middle, except this time you're slower due to holding the flag and you're the main target that the entire enemy team is focusing on, all to get 1 point. You add in all these factors and you have an exhausting long round of CTF. Yes, I said round because this shit is repeated 10 times over, which leads it to it getting boring and played out really fucking fast, just like Assassination Tower, which brings me to my guess to how this led to sword tournaments blowing up shortly after. Now, as for how sword tournaments came about, I feel like Castle Wars was highly responsible for the birth of this game type and its massive popularity before AT's birth. I'm guessing the majority of Castle Wars players got sick of getting raped by magnums, or sick of following an objective, or sick of getting clusterfucked by an entire team at once, or maybe even all those reasons together, which most likely led to a game type where you worry about none of those things. It's just you and one other person. No magnums, no objective, no getting clusterfucked by an entire team, and another map with shitty Z-Fighter aesthetics. I call it Z-Fighter aesthetics because, you know, what's the difference between this and this? But guess what? This game type was also very exhausting and got played out hella fast. You both spawned on your little platforms, and chances are if you've never played it, you fell to your death, because how the fuck are you supposed to know that you were on a platform smaller than an AT kid's self-esteem? People usually have the habit of moving around and shit when the game starts, so of course, I mean, chances are you're gonna fucking fall off. But anyway, besides that, you have to wait until the platform between you and your opponent spawns, beat your opponent, wait even longer until the next platforms between you and your second round opponent spawn, beat that person, wait longer for the third round platforms, and so on, all the way until grand finals. Considering how sword fighting in Reach was dumbed down from Halo 3, it takes even longer because the clashes between two swords can occur even if you swing your sword later than your opponent does. Don't believe me? Here's proof. But yeah, all of this makes each individual fight longer, adding on to the already long duration of the game. Add all that together and you probably have yourself an exhausting 10-minute round of clash swords, wait till platforms to repeat until one person is standing, and guess what? This shit is also repeated throughout 10 rounds, as if one isn't enough. At most, this should be 3 rounds. 10 is just overdoing it. I don't know why they feel the need to play something out so fucking fast. It's like listening to a song you just found that you like all day long. If you repeat it too much, it gets old too fast, whereas if you don't, you enjoy the song much longer. But back to the point. If you die, tough shit. Wait till this exhausting round is over before you can play again. Oh, and of course, we can't forget about how black screen causes all the platforms to reset, so if you're not standing on the initial block, tough shit, you're dead. Wait for next round. Or how about how sometimes that whole getting clusterfuck thing that you wanted to avoid in Castle Wars is back to haunt you because, you know, some kids are too soft and don't want to kill their friends because, you know, killing your friends in an FFA Slayer game type is a dick thing to do. Now where else do we see that kind of behavior, I wonder? You starting to notice something here? Castle Wars has some stupid honor system that labels you a scrub for using a weapon that the majority of players in the entirety of Reach's community don't even know how to use properly. Sword Tournament pretty much popularized the fact that killing your friends makes you a backstabbing asshole. Both games' main weapons are swords, and both games, just like AT of course, are extremely played out in the sense that each round is extremely exhausting, and they both have 10 rounds just to make things that much worse. And now for everyone's favorite, Assassination Tower. After pointing out all these similarities that these two game types I previously mentioned have with the very well-known plague that has literally sucked out almost all the diversity of Reach's custom game community, Assassination Tower, it's safe to assume that these two game types definitely encouraged the birth of Assassination Tower in some way. But what was it? What birthed sword tournaments could have definitely been that maybe people just got tired of following either an objective, dying from a weapon besides sword, or maybe getting clusterfucked by an entire team. But what was the main drive that made people want to limit themselves to only assassinations? Well, for starters, everyone loves assassinations. They look badass and it's a way to rub salt in your opponent's wounds. What's even more badass than running up behind a distracted opponent and snapping their neck or sticking a knife into their genitals? Ninjas, outmaneuvering your opponent in a situation where in most cases you would have died, jumping behind them and pulling off that badass assassination animation we just talked about, whether if it's running away from your enemy, stopping and jumping backwards and landing the melee, or running towards your opponent head on, jumping over their heads, turning around and landing the melee, or getting sandwiched, jumping over the enemy behind you, assassinate them, and gun the one in front of you down. But what does that have to do with Sword Tournament influencing the creation of Assassination Tower? I don't know about you guys, but in Sword Tournaments that I was in, assassinations gave you more points than slashing your opponent down. How this could have resulted in Assassination Tower is pretty similar to how Sword Tournament resulted from Castle Wars. People got tired of dying in ways they deemed illegitimate. People trying to get assassinations got tired of getting slashed in midair while trying to land assassinations or falling off the small arenas, which could have ultimately resulted in the birth of Assassination Tower. The land provides infinite space for assassinations. You no longer have to worry about falling off a platform into oblivion. And since that's the only way to get kills, these spoiled assassination tryhards no longer have to worry about getting slashed in midair. It's their way now. Assassinations only, faggot. At least that's my guess. And of course, we can't forget about the lovely fucking community. Why the community turned into what it was? Well, the thing is, you need to get 100 kills to win at least one round. Yes, one round of Assassination Tower is 100 kills, as I mentioned before. As for how many fucking rounds are there are 10 fucking rounds. I also forgot to mention that the reason why assassinations were so hard to get in Sword Tournament is because it takes a while to get behind your opponent, unless you have a horrible connection, which whoop-de-fucking-do the majority of AT players have because they found out that the more terrible the connection, the easier the kills. Anyway, now imagine having to get 100. One takes long enough, and back when not too many people knew that bad connection bettered your chances, games lasted forever, and of course people got bored. With the entire map of Forge World for you to dick around in, of course you had plenty of other things to do instead of following the game's main objective of killing your opponents. Think of it as high school pretty much. Here you are, you and a whole bunch of other random people stuffed into a class forced to do something you're not interested in, and will never help you in your future endeavors. Having this mutual boredom with everyone in your class eventually eventually leads to socializing, which leads to making acquaintances in that classroom, which can lead to many things such as relationships to even enemies and all these sorts of social statuses. Assassination Tower works more or less the same way, except you're not forced to play. People can always just, fucking leave. I'm guessing the reason they stay is because all their friends are playing the same thing, or they have nothing else to play, or both. Oh shit, my bad. Yeah, I was talking to my fans, but yeah, anyway. The game takes so long to end that eventually people get bored and would rather dick around instead. And with so many people having this mutual boredom in common, having nothing else to do eventually leads to more socializing. Eventually, one thing leads to the next. Socializing leads to friendships, which can lead to relationships, and with this game type blowing up all over Reach, and this happening in many custom games simultaneously, also grows the number of friendships and relationships and such. Of course, in turn grows the number of those who don't get as much attention as the others and feeling ignored and end up thinking that no one likes them. You already know who I'm talking about there. As for relationships, most guys always try to find a way to impress their girlfriend, and with no way to do it in person, they try to find other ways to do it. This can be tied in with the really pathetic romantic gestures that we see, such as crouching your Spartans next to each other, or making maps devoted to your relationship status, which in turn makes the emos feel even lonelier. But yeah, guys will also go for more than just acts of bravery, like kicking someone from the game for simply killing your girlfriend, which leads to drama and hate. Relationships, of course, don't last forever, so when a few of them start breaking apart, it can lead to many things, such as them being heartbroken, adding on to the already existing number of emos. Or, of course, not all relationships created more emos. Breakups can also leave people with a bad taste in their mouths. The saltiness left from the breakup can lead to revenge and creating rumors about each other that can quickly spread throughout the community, and so on, once again, adding to the drama that is already around. Of course, not all the people who weren't in relationships miserable, attention-whoring emos. Some were pretty desperate and would go pretty far just to try to impress others, to the point where they can come off as perverted. That's where the perverted tryhards come from, and probably why girls have a higher social status than guys. Many guys all at once would team up on the one guy that has killed a girl as a way to try to impress the girl by trying to appear as this fucking knight in shining armor gimmick that's all about justice and shit. Ironically, this so-called act of justice is in fact the opposite and is sexist as fuck, because if a male is killed, no one gives a shit, but the second it's a female getting killed, everyone goes apeshit, which promotes segregation and once again adding to the existing drama. And of course, we can't forget the tryhards. Like I said, people get bored after playing this game for a while, so instead of following the game's initial objective, they dick around, which leads to those moments of peace in the game, which opens up to chances to meet others since you're no longer focusing on the game type. But of course, you still have those who are still following the game's main objective and killing those who are no longer interested, causing those who are no longer interested to get annoyed and retaliate with their newfound friends they made from their mutual boredom, which leads to people teaming up on others in an FFA game type and creating that much more hate and segregation, which adds on to the already existing shitstorm of drama. The ones who got jumped in turn get their friends to get revenge, and that probably led to all these assassination clans. Not to mention, ninjing feels pretty badass, and usually people tend to poke fun at the ones they ended up ninjing, which in turn can possibly cause the player on the receiving end to get salty, call out the fact that they were killed off guard and ask for 1v1s and shit, which once again probably paved way to the whole challenging your opponent concept. I'm pretty sure had the winning score of Assassination Tower had only been up to like 15 or at most 25 and was only one round, then this community would have most likely never have turned out the way it did. People wouldn't have gotten bored since the game would have ended much faster, which wouldn't have led to all the socializing, which led to all these social statuses, segregation, and people you can literally define in categories. But because the winning score was so high, people eventually steered away from the main objective and their boredom led to the drama-filled, toxic community we see before us today. I'm not entirely sure if this is what happened. I could possibly be talking out of my ass here and looking way too fucking far into it, but it's a pretty damn good educated guess if you ask me, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Oh, by the way, one more thing I wanted to touch upon, just in case if any of you were wondering how school class is not helping you in the future can be tied with Assassination Tower. Assassinations themselves, pretty much. No amount of ninjing will ever make you good at the game in the future, just like learning the Pythagorean shit in geometry will never help you in the future if what you're pursuing has nothing to do with it. It's it's useless to practice this so-called skill. If you take those same so-called skills into Team Slayer, you will perform the same way as you always have, if not worse, because you're focusing on ninjing someone when the whole reason that game type was most likely conceived was probably because people got sick of dying in other ways while going for them. While your dumbass is running at me from across the hallway on countdown, I can easily just gun you down before you can ever get to me. Also, 1v1's assassinations require no skills themselves, so trying to get good at this so-called skill is meaningless, even in 1v1 assassinations, and that is due to lag. You can have the most perfect fucking connection in the world, but no matter what, Reach's netcoding and servers are average at best. Even then, it will always take time for information to reach one destination to the other. No matter how good your connection is, I will always see something different on my screen because it takes time for information on your end to reach my end. It is not instant. So even though on your screen it may appear as if you were behind me when you assassinated me, on my screen it looked like you were only by the side of me. The more horrible the connection, the more the display is delayed on the other person's end, to the point where it can potentially seem as if someone is several feet away from you and still assassinating you. This is what probably paved way to those who purposely lag their connection, which, by the way, if you have to lag your connection for kills, then it just further proves my point in that there is no skill involved in 1v1 assassinations, and you're a shitty fucking player. With that broken concept, along with the fact that the game's display lags regardless due to what I said earlier about the speed of information getting from one place to another, it's safe to assume that there obviously is no skill involved in this whole 1v1 ninja bullshit, hence why practicing this so-called skill is meaningless. Please do not waste your time. I mean, if you want, you could go right the fuck ahead. I don't give a shit. I'm just saying it's not gonna fundamentally enhance your performance if that's what you're expecting. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you have your own theories or actual facts on how this game type came about, feel free to share them in the comments. Subscribe for more Assassination Tower drama because there's definitely gonna be more down the road. I still have a shit ton left over. So yeah, look out for future videos and shit. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video on how Assassination Tower was born. Or should I say theory? A game theory. Ha! Where the fuck have I heard that before?